Not, we'll go with what we have, which is wonderful.
Yep, sounds good to me. All right, I'm Michelle Krill. I work at Southwestern School District as a K-12 instructional technology coach for teachers. And we're going to talk some about the Effective Educator framework and its relationship to technology and good instruction best practices. I put the link in the chat for the Google Doc guide, which you can click open, and then that you can make a copy if you want. It has all the links and different things, and we're really going to work from there. So I'm going to go through these slides relatively quickly, and then we're going to move on. I'm going to add a link to the chat for the Google Moderator. If you hadn't had a chance to visit, you can click over to the Google Moderator link. On the left side, you'll see questions, domain 1, domain 2, domain 3, domain 4. And the way Google Moderator works is you can vote up a question or you can post a response. I think you can post a response. Actually, I'm signed in, so I might be the only one that can post responses. But what's neat about Google Moderator, if you've ever participated in any of those satisfaction or FAQ websites, they often try to get people to vote up topics so that the most important information rises to the top. So that's the way Google Moderator works. And yeah, have a couple of different views, which we'll end up taking a look at. Then the other thing I have for you, and I'll give you that link before we get going, is a link to a KWL for effective educating. Let me see. Let me give you that link might not be the best. So you probably have used Padlet before. If not, you just double click on the square background to post your know, want to know, and then possibly what you've discovered. So if you already know something about the Effective Educator framework, just double click on the left column, like it's kind of a column. Did I not give you the better link? Did I forget? Here you go. Oh yeah, I did. Popped in. There it is. Now you have it twice. So that you can indicate if you have any kinds of questions or anything that you want to know more about, or something that you already know that could help the rest of us. And although we won't use these resources tons tonight, one of the things we will do is kind of sort out the ones we're using and try to figure out where they would fit in the domains and the different components of the Effective Educator framework. So how about if you raise your hand, you just click participants at the bottom, and raise your hand if your district has you organizing materials within these domains. Oh, so when I have control of the screen, you can't do anything? You're muted, Sue.
Yeah, if you go up to where it says Michelle Krill's sharing her screen, there's a little red thing, and you can exit full screen. So you can still see her screen, but you can click on the links as well.
Oh yeah, or you can press escape. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Does that work out then?
All right, it got smaller again when I pressed escape.
You should be able to have the windows side by side.
It would be much nicer if I had a bigger monitor. All right, so this is what I'm supposed to look at. Oh, you can't see what I'm looking at right now. It just says Effective Educator. It's the Padlet, right?
Yep, and it says double click
okay
under the header boxes. I just made a total backwards. I thought you guys would know something about this already. Are you totally in the dark?
Okay, I see how to put that.
I just want to say, Sue, that while I hear you typing like that, it totally makes me think about Second Life. Have any of you been in Second Life lately?
Nope.
Well, I had to do it for another class, and I was, you know how when it was so like, oh, this, that, and the other thing when it first came out, but it's still pretty meaty. And I actually went on a college tour that operates in Second Life.
Really?
Yeah, it's living large, still going on.
I hadn't heard much about that in so long. So.
All right, so someone knows there are 4 domains. I also have the link to the moderator up at the top if you were interested in checking that out. Again, so you have your want to know. All right. So you just keep working on that. I'm going to advance my slide here just so we can, we already told you who I was. All right. So we didn't do the get to know each other. Sorry about that. It's not quite as many people. Let's see who we have here. Amy. Hi, Amy. Michelle, Teresa, Nathan, and Sue. Sorry, I was looking sideways. We went over how to move around in Zoom. We looked at Google Moderator. What we're going to do when you're looking at the Padlet after we move forward is just go through some of the information that's available about the Danielson framework. I know in Sue's email, I think she might have referred to me as an expert, but actually what I am is a pretty good curator of resources. So I have a good number of resources, and I think I had to have them tied together in a pretty meaningful way that will hopefully be useful for you now and later also. Then we're going to look at the technology connection, and then we're just going to wrap things up with a quick sorted activity. Good. I'm going to click back over to that Padlet in a minute or two. So this is the a graphic for the effective educator model, which you do have if you got the link to the Google Doc guide document, which I will put in the chat again in case you missed it earlier. Because you can follow along for sure and add any notes for yourself if you do file make a copy. So there are 4 domains, as someone noted, and each one has a set of components underneath. And we're going to look at a site from the PDE from SAS that also shows that under each component there's some elements. So we're just going to kind of explode the framework a little bit so you can see all the pieces. Before we get going, I'd ask, again, I'm curious, and you can just use your microphone or you can put it in the chat window. How is your district handling this framework? Like, what has changed for you with regard to observation or classroom practice or documentation?
Well, my district uses it, and can you guys hear me? You can? Okay. Yeah, my district uses this, and we use this for like pre-conference, post-conference. We have to set goals for our observations based on these 4 domains. So this has been in our district for a while now, so I'm pretty familiar with this. But yeah, I mean, this is the basis of everything from pre to the observation to post. This is what it's based on.
Do you have to keep a portfolio of things to say that you've met each one of these components under the domains, or is it mainly about your observation?
It's mainly about the observation at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
The one conversation I overheard was a principal talking to a middle school teacher about Collins writing, and the topic was about walkthroughs, which is connected to this, I think, and he was just saying if I do a walkthrough and I don't see the Collins writing, it just means I have to come back again to see if I can observe that, because that's one of his, one of their look fors, I guess. But I don't know exactly how that ties in here, but that was the last thing that I overheard, and that was just this past week.
Mm-hmm. I was looking at some of the Danielson documents online again, and I have a link for you that you can be able to see her presentation that she did at ASCD, I think last year, saying that it's the more frequent observation that can tie a lot of pieces together. So, how observations worked in my district is you got observed once, and if you did differentiated supervision, that was only once every 3 years because you could just have a plan of your own. So, and there wasn't real, you could write up the plan, but it wasn't tied to anything super specific, maybe a building goal or a district goal, but nothing quite as geared toward affecting, I think, the classroom as this is. Nothing is structured, I guess I would say. Alrighty, and I am only showing you this picture because we've probably all seen this one. I don't know it's only that the 50% is about the observation. So that's pretty important. And those are the things that you can definitely control. So out of all of this, you can try to control some of these other things, but the 50% for the framework is within the teacher's control. So that's why I'm showing this one. Does anybody else have any information to share about this particular graphic? This is one they always show us. All right. So then I gave you the link already. So these are the files. It's just this Google Doc. And then if you wanted these slides, but I don't even know that you would necessarily want these slides. But if you did, you can get them and keep a copy. But they're very minimal. I was looking at the Padlet there. We're going to be looking at various tools. Not all of these necessarily will be used tonight. We talked about Nearpod in the last webinar, so that's why I wanted to include that. But we will actually, I wanted to use the Zoom poll, but I wasn't able to figure out how to do that since I haven't used it as a presenter before, but I still might get that figured out. I was curious also if anyone is using Teachscape with this in their district. Amy, okay. I have to go through my windows, but I see heads shaking, okay. We're not doing anything like that in my district. I think that would be nice. It would help me stay organized, which could just be me. I like to be organized.
I get the sense that that's all that is, Michelle, is an organizational tool.
Yeah.
You know, it cuts down on a lot of paperwork.
I think at the IU, they're just setting it up in like a Google folder type thing. Have your Google folder with your domains underneath. That's what I think they're doing.
So Teachscape is a tool that tracks all of this stuff with the Danielson model. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm going to switch over and I'm going to share my Google Doc, even though you're probably looking at it, but I'm still going to get back to sharing that with you. And we're just going to work on it together. And then that way, when I click the links, they'll pop open in your window. But you can also pop them open. If it overtook your screen again, what did we find out? You can press escape or that little red circle. Alrighty, so here we go. We did all the welcome stuff, and now we have the background and resources. I can move that little person window around. Alrighty, so I have these links kind of in order, and it won't take too long to go through the background, especially since you're pretty familiar. This one is simply from the Danielson website, and you can roll these open, keeping in mind that these are the domains in the blue bar, followed by the components underneath. One of the things that I found on this page that I thought was good were the, let me get a little bit lower here. Here's the ASCD presentation I found from last year, which I thought was pretty nice. It was all her slides, and it wasn't really about here's why you should use the framework. It's why there's even a need for the framework. So I thought the background information was good. It's not narrated, so you just kind of have to wing it. But they also have some additional articles down the side. So if anybody's questioning, or if you're going to be teaching an EduSpire class and you need some resources, I think this is a good place to start right from the beginning. So that was an easy one. Then this one is on the SAS site. And what I like best about this one, once you get going here, this one talks about Teachscape. When you expand these, it'll show you the different components and then a rubric simply for that component. So, you know, you can get the full rubric, which can be kind of overwhelming. You can also get the domain rubric, which can still be overwhelming, but now I can get right down to the component rubric. If you wanted to sign up for these classes, you could. I had signed up for one. There's a lot of information. I didn't complete it. I'm like one of those people that does a MOOC, but just harvests resources from it. But I do think they'd be pretty valuable in making you think. But that's why I like this page, because I think that it's helpful to get right down into what I need. So I think that's great. But when you first come here, it wouldn't be so obvious. They also have all these guiding questions, which we're going to take a look at in a couple of minutes, just one of the guiding question sets. But depending on your role or the role of the teachers in classes you teach for EduSpire, this might be a good page to bookmark or come back to, because if they're planning for how to explain their technology use or how to explain what's going on in their classroom in a way that dovetails with the framework, this would be a great page to visit. All right. So this one is an image, and we're going to go right from here also to SAS. Because what I found out is that also on the SAS site, they have a crosswalk between the different domains. So in this case, I've dug all the way down from the domain at the top. Here's the component, then here's the element. I can go down to activities and assignments, and you can see that if there was an alignment between these two domains, it would show up here. So I have the link for you for the page that does that right here. And it works kind of like that other page, and when you first get here, you don't see much. It makes it hard to get direct links. That's why I had to take that screenshot. So now let's see if I get in here into designing student assessments, and now I'm all the way down into the element. I'd be able to see that in addition to this being in domain 1, it also aligns to domain 3. So if you are organizing artifacts or planning instruction or planning for your observation, and you want to see how you can get multiple domains in at once, then you can use this framework crosswalk to do that. Let's look down here under professional responsibilities, because I think some of these should cross with domain 1. I'm not sure which one it is for planning. No, those are all on their own. So I like that crosswalk page. I think it can be pretty valuable for planning instruction. All right, so here we go, buzzing through the background. The guiding questions, now this set I gave you, this is a PDF, so when it downloads, then you have to kind of pop it open. And these are discussions. It's really a guide for the principal, but one of the things that always made me nervous in the observation is kind of the fear of the unknown. So I felt that if I had the guiding questions that the principals might ask me, or if it's kind of like having the rubric, but in this way, the guiding question should lead you to be successful in the rubric. So the rubric, I think, can be, I just think it's overwhelming. So I thought that the guiding questions could be a little more targeted for you. Is this something that your principal would share with you, or not really?
Probably if we asked for it.
I have not been observed in I don't know how long, because I guess they can't figure out, even though we have the instructional technology specialist 1 now, I think they just think they're going to observe me as a teacher, or I'm going to do a differentiated supervision, and I haven't been observed in probably 5 years. So we'll see what happens this year. Because last year I just signed the yellow form, like always. All right, so there's the full rubric, which I'm not going to bring up. This one, you already know what that looks like probably. The document I have here, the technology look-fors, I'm going to give you maybe like 3 minutes to look through this one on your own. I'll give you the link for it if you didn't get it clicked open. Oh, I wasn't seeing the chat. I wasn't seeing the chat. There we go. Okay, so these are things on what I would like you to do is just to read through it and see if any of these things are questions or items that your administrators are looking for, or if you think when you're working with EduSpire students, if these are things they'd be prepared to be doing or be able to answer or demonstrate. So, so like 8:15, so 3 minutes. So I see one of the first questions is, are those look fors attached to specific components or elements? So you're told you live in the twos. Because what comes right before distinguished? Isn't it proficient?
Yeah,
And then what's before that?
basic.
So they're saying you live in the basic?
Let's see.
I'm sorry. I know the Danielson is like on one of them's 1 to 4,
Uh-huh.
and then Pennsylvania's is 1 to 3, I think. And so what they said is you'll live in basically the proficient, which is fine.
Right.
But like I said, it almost makes it seem like then, it invites complacency. Like, oh, well,
It's just really a struggle, I guess, to be thinking that way when all these years we've gotten the form and it was either satisfactory or unsatisfactory. Do you know what I'm saying? So now there are these other shades, and I think every teacher wants to be and wants to believe that, I'm doing the very best I can for the kids. And so to be told, don't try to always be distinguished, or you're not always going to be there. Even if you feel like you are, you're going to have to pretty much accept being proficient once in a while, because I think I've got the feeling that they're not allowed to, to have people be distinguished all the time. I don't know. That can be frustrating. Did you see any of these look fors? Did they seem pretty obvious?
I think it's interesting. I mean, this is what the principal would basically have in their hands as they're observing us.
I think that's what he's suggesting, that the administrator would be able to read these competencies and then look for the items under look for.
I mean, because I was happy when I read this because I feel like I do this a lot. You know, I'm the librarian and tech liaison, so I feel like I do this. But I don't know if other teachers know that this is out there, like, because there's a lot of teachers out there that might feel a little threatened by this, and and say, oh no, I need to step it up a little bit. So I'm just, I've never seen this before, so I'm interested to know if my principal this,
Well, I think what's nice about it is if you're teaching EduSpire courses, they're all kind of related to instructional technology. And if we can provide the people in the class with things like this, even if their principals don't have this particular one in their hand, they might have a different item or something that they know that they're working toward improving their practice, and it'll meet the framework also. So it's not like they're just wasting their time or they're going rogue, that it absolutely makes sense. So I think this is a good resource. And I was thinking about that same thing, Teresa, that I look at this and I'm like, I feel like a lot of the teachers I work with do this. I think I would be doing those things if I was still in the classroom. But I can think of teachers who are not. So I think that is a good observation.
This is 21st century learning. This is what it's all about right here.
Right. And we're going to look at the ISTE standards also and see that even though this says technology look-fors, I think if you really look at it, they're not necessarily all about technology. And, and I think that's what we've been trying to tell people for a good while now, that, it's just about good instruction, and technology is one piece of good instruction now. Good. So you can bookmark that one. You'll be able to keep the document also. Just talking about those levels that Amy and I were discussing, I have just this performance level keyword document. So it's failing, needs improvement, proficient, and distinguished. And what I've been hearing is that, you're going to live in proficient and you might dip over to distinguished, and then, you can come back. So that's that. These are the keywords. So if you go through the rubric for failing, not that any of us even need to look at that one, these are some of the words that repeat or the key words in the rubric. And then here's needs improvement. And you can see it works like most other rubrics with none, some, most, and always. But what I liked about the distinguished one is that it really talks about students. Students are doing things. Students are thinking. Students are making questioning. So I think we might have a lot of people in this proficient area, but they haven't released some of the control to, accept what the students are able to do. Are you, Amy, are you referring to Doug John, that technology look-fors in your chat message there?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, I don't think that one was very deep. I think it was just a quick, here's what you can look for, but I am going to share his rubric, which might go a little deeper. We'll see what you think. That'd be a good comparison. I like to share this one because I think it's nice to know what are you trying to target in order to get to distinguished. You can just see it's not just being consistent, it's more about seamless. So I like that one. You don't even have to read it then. Here's the link to that ASCD presentation, which I'm not going to open for you, but it's you can just click through it really fast and you get the gist of what she's saying. One thing that is in there, she has a picture of a railroad, and then she has the picture of the railroad tracks going this way, and then she has them merging like this. So she's saying that the framework is a good merging document. So I thought that was a good use of imagery. So if you wanted to take a look, that would be a good one to look at. There's that graphic again. I just don't want to lose it. All right, so we're going to move on. You looked at the look-fors. I'm going to give you the rubric, and that's what I want you to look at next. So take a couple of minutes, and if you still have the other document open, that's great, because you might be able to compare the two like Amy was saying. but I'm going to put it in the chat window for you too. And Teresa, you might be interested in this one to go along with the previous.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting.
Now he only has the 3 categories, the basic, the proficient, and the distinguished. So we're just going to rule out the failing.
I'm noticing the distinguished is so much about choice, giving students choices.
Mm-hmm. And it is for each domain, so I think it can run a little bit long. If you, let me just ask, how many of you go right to the distinguished column and just read straight down?
Yep.
Okay.
Although I'm comparing a little bit between proficient and distinguished, and some of them are very, very similar. Like really similar.
This one right here, the teacher demonstrates an enthusiasm for educational technology and its uses. I have some people that would just bottom out on that one still.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Even in our school district now being 1-to-1.
Michelle, what district are you in?
In Southwestern School District in Hanover.
Oh.
Where are you at, Teresa?
Westchester area. Yeah, in Chester County, Pennsylvania.
All right, so hold on to that one.
Okay.
I was just looking again here. So we got our 1-to-1 computers. I'm on this number 9, I think in classroom environment. And our teachers definitely wanted to know if they were going to be able to see all the computer screens. But I really like this distinguished one, and that makes me think about that hybrid learning model that a lot of PA schools are using now. I think at elementary school, this already goes on. This idea of group collaboration and independent work and the rotations, but it's not so much in our upper levels. So I think that's interesting that it appears in here. Does anyone else have an interesting note? Here's another one. I didn't notice, did this one have a date on it? I'm going to zoom down, sorry. I'll zoom all the way to the bottom now. So he's basing this, and it's from 2007. So I would think this could also be updated because the framework has been updated. But I do think that even, for us to think it needs updating, that it would be very valid for a good amount of my teachers in my district. Good. All righty. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to give you, let's see, we'll probably just get right ahead and get started here. Oh, elaborate on the hybrid model? Okay. So here in Pennsylvania, it's called HLI. I thought it was the Hybrid Learning Initiative, but I think it's the Hybrid Learning Institute. And Deliker Strategies is involved, and maybe through the different IUs. And what it really is the grouping in the classroom. And you would have 3 groups: a direct instruction group, then a peer collaboration group, and an independent working group. And they would be working, hopefully, on the peer group on a collaborative, activity and project. And then in the independent station, they're working on their own. And then in the direct instruction, they're meeting with the teacher, who may or may not be presenting the same information when they rotate, because it meets the needs of the learner. Sometimes in the independent station, I know they might be using Study Island as different places are getting started, or some sort of stock resource like that. Then in the collaborative group, maybe they're working on a joint publication of some sort, depending on what the topic is in the direct instruction. So the different stations may or may not be related to the direct instruction. It could be previewing, building background, extending thinking, or it could just be a separate activity as long as it's peer. So those are the 3 groupings. You can, let's see, I'll see if I can get the link to that for you. It's the Hybrid Learning Institute. Where are you located, Michelle? Where's that? Sorry. Is it near Lancaster? I need a South Central. Oh, okay. Probably not too far from me then. I don't know. I'm from Delaware, so I'm not too good still with my PA directions. I gave you the link there for the PA-HLI. You can look at it on the website. All right, so here's what we're going to do for the rest of the time. I have this site for you. And if you haven't seen this, I know Laurie and Carol showed it a little bit last week, but I really love this one. This is a Google certified trainer, teacher person, and her project was to align the Danielson framework for teaching and the ISTE standards. So I think this is really, really awesome. There's some different ones, that maybe try to do it, but I feel like this one went more of the way than some of the others. And if you click into, at the top, using the menu here at the top, one of the domains, then she has the component underneath and then some resources and what they are and how they can fit these different uses or areas of the framework. So I wanted to make sure you see this, and then here's what we're going to do. I have a shared organizer. Oh, I wanted to show you one more thing before we head over there. Sorry. Separate note. It was on your clothes basket. Can't find the bathrobe. Alrighty, so how many of you, and you can either raise your hand or, put it in the chat window, have seen anything from this Ed website?
Good.
So we are looking at developing some personalized professional development plans for next year. And this is a site that we would put on our list of things for teachers to use. The worst part about it is if you get into these groups and have your email notifications turned on, then you get a lot of emails. But you can see they have all these free webinars. If you just look ahead at April, I think, April. Oh, here we go. I just clicked the arrow, right? Then you can see all these different webinars they're going to be having. And they're totally free. They have a full-on communities in here. So I wanted to make sure you saw this one because I didn't see it on the ISTE Crosswalk site. I think that besides the webinars, the communities can be pretty valuable. If you just get the digest, then you can read what everybody's saying, even if you don't participate. It's hard to participate in everything, that's for sure. But if you have teachers who are weak in an area or interested in an area, gamification, blended learning, maker spaces, all that sort of stuff, different library things. They have a pretty active library community sponsored by Follett. So that's pretty nice. So I did want to make sure you saw that one. Sorry about that, got distracted. Okay, so right here under this collaborative search and sort, we're gonna work together to think about some of the resources we use here. Oh, I didn't use a Google folder tonight, so I'm gonna delete that one. Along with the 2 that I included from last week. And then I also gave you here a blank organizer in case you ever wanted to use one. But I'd like you to click open the shared organizer. And this is a Google drawing. So if you haven't used Google Drawings before, they're pretty simple. All I wanted to do was to have you look on this site, or from your head, things you do in your classroom, or from after reading the rubric from Doug Johnson or his look fors or any of the resources from there, is to key in a couple. So when I put in, I'm going to steal the one I just showed you here, and I would put in edweb.net here, because I think edweb.net would be a great resource to help teachers fulfill their professional responsibilities. And if you forget the components, then I have them here on this document for you. So I'll give you about 5 minutes, maybe 3 to 5. It's just a small group. And let's see if we can populate the shared organizer with some of the resources from tonight. Okay, so till about 8:37 or 38. I'll work on it too. And let me know if you have any trouble with the drawing. Great. Hmm. If you double click in the box, then you should be able to get your cursor right in there. What's PBLU? I also forgot there was another document I had meant to share with you. It's a distinguished tools snapshot. Now, I went to Pete and C last year, and this lady had these great resources for Danielson. And I could not find her name today, I'm sorry to say, but once I do, I will add it to this document. I added it, I added it to the chat, and I also added it to the shared Effective Educator Google Doc. I had it on my version, but I hadn't added it to the shared version. That looks great. Let's see what's up in that classroom environment. So the thing I liked about that snapshot is I took some of her things out, and I'm not sure why some are red. That's because, like I said, it's not my original document. But that it's another way that you could add resources, just another format. So when we talk about classroom environment. I know some people might put Class Dojo in up there.
Yeah.
Maybe also in the classroom environment, having digital resources in a single location that's easy to navigate. I'm going to move that text box down a little. Who put that in about COPA? You, Amy? That's a pretty hot topic here. I just totally put together a whole thing and sent it out on Friday, and I'll be meeting with some of our principals this week, and then I'll be seeing all teachers in May because the IU put together a whole thing with that. So we're all working on it. That's a tough one. Good. So I really like the Google drawing. And I think that it's really easy to use for students on their own. And one of the things that comes up in the ISTE standards for students right off the bat under the very first one, which now just went right out of my head, it has to do with something that would be, this would qualify. Kids making their own graphic organizer to organize learning is perfect. And a lot of teachers might not even think about doing it because we print out their graphic organizer and hand it to them. But I organize my learning one way, and you might organize yours a different way. So by using something like this, you'd really be affecting the classroom environment as well as the instruction. So I think that is a key piece that maybe they don't always think about. Oh, it takes a little extra time, but it only takes extra time the first time, really. And if you're using Google Classroom, I'd be all about using the Google drawings with kids. Are you folks using Google Classroom? Can't see everybody at once. Okay. I love it, so. I could do more, don't get me wrong, but what it does really well. My friend Allie says it's a one-trick pony, but it's really good at that trick. That's what she told me. Right, so perfect. I appreciate your participation in that. And I want to make sure that you get back to looking at this one also. And even if you determine these aren't the resources you would want, if you have teachers that need to set up a portfolio or track information in Teachscape and they come into your EdUspire classes, this is a pretty nice site for them to think about, oh, well, I'm not using a Google form, but I use Poll Everywhere, and they can see right where it fits in. So I think that's really nice. And I mean, obviously, the page looks really great too. Here's another favorite, this Common Sense Media. Done and done well. I mean, we're going to download all their things finally so that we can use them to meet some of our digital skills requirements finally. So I think that one's really good. Here's one I don't know about, the EduCurious. I'm going to click it open for later. All right, let's, we don't have to do this, or you could do it. You can copy this. And what I would be thinking about is, I know a lot of times the organizer we did helped us meet a domain. Okay, we picked something, and how did that meet planning and preparation? Or how did it meet the classroom environment domain? This particular sentence, if you take it and then fill in the blanks, you're actually taking it down a little bit deeper, because now you're going to say whatever resource I'm using meets the component under that domain. I think it's nice to be pretty specific. Who's screenshotting me?
I did, sorry.
I'm just teasing. As long as you're not screenshotting me.
No, I wanted to screenshot that sentence to have that.
I did put it in the chat. Yes, you should be able to copy and paste too. I think this would be a good one if you're working with teachers to really making sure that they're drilling down to the next level. Now, obviously, underneath of the component, there's also the element. If you go back to that one site we looked at where it just keeps expanding. And sometimes maybe they could meet 2 domains if you use the one that has I guess it's another crosswalk between the 2 domains. And that would be, considered a summarizer. So if you are in the Learning Focused Schools District, then this would be a wrap-up summarizer, which I think is a way to think about using assessment in instruction, making sure that your goal at the beginning is met at the end by kind of asking them to give you that information back. And I think that the digital way of collecting those is far superior to collecting 20, 25 Post-it notes as kids are on their way out the door. All right, let's see here. Oh, here's that one again on a little bit bigger thing, same sentence. And I just wanted to wrap up by saying that if you think about these domains as overlapping circles, that really the effective educating, comes right in the middle. When you're doing all these things to the best of your ability at the level that the kids need to really learn, then you are an effective educator. And that's right here in the sweet spot. I wanted to mark it sweet spot, but there wasn't enough room. Do you have any questions? I think that was maybe a little bit, it's a lot of information, a lot of different links, but hopefully you'll be able to keep a copy of this document for yourself. Oh, it won't let you make a copy? This one? I think they put in some new thing that lets the link, anyone who has the link can view. Was anyone else able to make a copy? Yeah, are you signed into your Google account? Okay. Well, I could always share it directly with you if you want. If you put your Gmail in there, I can add it right, send it right to you. Okay. Well, you let me know, Michelle, because if you want to put your Gmail in there, I'll just make share it directly with you. It took me a while. I had all these links. I have them in Digo. I have them in my Google Drive. I had them everywhere. So I liked now that I could have them kind of in a streamlined path toward starting building background, connecting technology, and then really bringing it together with the group in this sorting activity. Okay, good. Everybody's set. So that's about what I have for tonight. Sue, did you have any questions or comments or anything from anybody?
No, I just want to thank you, Michelle, for putting all of this together. It's a ton of resources and a lot of good things to look at. And I think some things that really not only can be used in the classes that are taught by EduSpire, but when people get back to their districts and are starting to work on this with their colleagues, it's a really nice summary of everything put in one location. So thank you very much. And thank you all for attending. We just don't know what's going to work for getting a large group of people together on this, but we feel that even if we're doing this for 1 or 2 people, it's definitely time well spent for everybody, and we will certainly be repeating some of these as time goes on because they're very valuable.
Yeah.
So hopefully you'll join us again in 2 weeks when Brenda Boyer is with us, and she'll be talking about some research and taking a look at various things that you find online. And Brenda's, she's amazing as well. So we have so many good people working for EdUspire that, we want to tap all the resources we possibly can. And I think we've started out with four great webinars. So